Hello, and welcome to Viva La Action, the action movie podcast where we're talking all things action movies, the good, bad, and underrated. My name is Santi, and with me as always is my co-host, Grayson.
Hello, that's me.
How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Voice is obviously doing a little bit better,
Yes.
so.
You don't sound like smoking Kermit the Frog.
Yeah. Although I do still have this cough, so.
Yes.
I apologize in advance, but I'm going to try and keep that to a minimum.
That's okay. It's our Christmas episode.
It is.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Chrysler.
Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah.
Yeah.
Merry Kwanzaa.
And everything else. Oh, Happy Yule.
Happy Yule.
Hell
Happy
yeah.
Festivus.
And Happy Holidays.
Happy holidays.
And that's the episode.
Yeah.
We'll see you guys.
See you guys next week. No. So we released an episode last week.
Yep.
On 2 weeks ago on Yip Man: The Final Fight. I feel like that episode was pretty well received.
Yeah.
Yeah. So far we've had no complaints. So
Yeah, that's
good.
always good. No 1-star reviews.
No, not so far. Speaking of reviews, if you are so inclined, if you've listened to any of our episodes and you feel like you want to help us out, then you could give us a review.
Yeah.
And how many stars should they give us?
If it's on a scale of 5 stars, I think they should give us 5. I think that's a pretty reasonable amount.
I think it's only reasonable.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm going to invade your log cabin
Yeah.
with my crew of drug dealers,
Yeah.
and I'm going to kill your dad.
Dang, what a segue.
What is it? Oh, speaking of
Segue. Yeah.
Yeah, so if folks would like to leave us a nice review, that'd be great. It helps the show out, helps us get up in the charts. Speaking of charts, I don't know if you saw the email we got. We're number 167 in movies and TV
Let's go.
in India.
Let's go. Hell yeah.
Top 200, baby.
What's up, India?
What's up, India?
Glad you're listening.
We honestly, it doesn't
Big
matter.
fans.
I don't care where you're listening from.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
I wish I knew anything in any of the major languages in India, but
True.
thanks for listening.
Yeah. Food's great.
Oh yeah.
Food's wonderful.
Oh yeah. I mean, whatever, American bastardized version.
Yeah.
But I love a naan,
Oh.
a garlic naan,
Don't even get me started
I love
on curry.
a tikka masala.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, curry's great.
Curry's wonderful.
We're okay.
Anyway, this isn't a food podcast.
We watched a movie this week.
We did. We sure did. It was shorter than I thought it was going to be.
It's pretty short.
I pulled it up and I was like, only an hour 30. That's what's up.
But so we're gonna touch on if you've never listened to the show before, we're gonna touch on the plot, we're gonna touch on the themes, we're gonna touch on the performances.
Yeah.
We're gonna touch each other.
Well,
But that's off pod.
yeah. That's in the privacy of our own home. Anyway.
So we watched Braven,
Mm-hmm.
starring Jason Momoa.
Yep.
Everyone's mom's favorite actor.
Yeah.
And it's directed by Lynn Oding. It was actually co-produced by Jason Momoa and his...
I did see that, yeah.
Yeah, his production company. So before we get into anything, what'd you think?
It was good. I was telling Santi before we started recording, this is the first thing I think I've ever watched with Jason Momoa in it. Mm-hmm. He's a wonderful actor.
He's good.
He's great. We'll get to this eventually, but I just love that at any moment in this movie, when given the opportunity to use a gun, he would have a gun in his hand.
Yeah.
And he would actively choose not to use it and instead use, I don't know, an axe. A stick. And I was like, I respect that.
Yeah.
Hats off to you, sir.
Yeah. I think we'll get into it more as we go through the movie, but I think one of the highlights, one of the reasons I like this movie, and I think I wanted to talk about it, is because I think for me this is the perfect example of how this is for me it's like the textbook of how to do a low budget action movie.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to touch on all the different reasons for that, but I feel like the number one reason this movie really works is that Jason Momoa commits 1,000% to
yeah.
this movie. And, like, you can just tell that he's, like, not phoning it in. Like, I think part of that's because he co-produced it, that, you know, he feels some pressure to perform well. But, like, there's definitely, like, low-budget movies where you watch it and, like, you know, whatever Steven Seagal or whoever they paid, like, you know, $2 million to be in it for a day. Like, you know, they just phone it in. But I feel like he's very physical. Like, he's... You know, he just commits, and I think that's what makes the movie work, ultimately.
Oh, yeah, it was great. Like, I don't think they were really... The bad guy, I really liked the bad guy, because he was just a dick.
Yeah.
He played a dick so well.
He did.
He was just the worst. And he did a great job. The wife did a great job. The kid did a great job.
Yeah.
Everybody was fantastic. Also, can I say, it was a beautiful movie.
It's
like those
very gorgeous.
Opening shots. What?
Yeah.
It was amazing. I want to live there.
Yeah, it was shot in, I think, British Columbia in Canada.
Okay, that makes sense.
Obviously, you know, very snowy, like, beautiful. Like, the first, I want to say, like, 5 minutes of the movie is just shots of, like, Canada.
Yeah.
It's just, like,
it's
you know,
gorgeous.
The seaside and stuff. And it is really gorgeous. And it's, like,
so good.
It just looks cold the whole time. I'm like, oof.
Yeah.
So, like we talked about, it's, like, a low-budget-ish movie. I think I have here that it was written. It was made for a budget of $5 million. On Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 77% rating, which is a fresh, so it's 77% fresh.
And that's critics or audience?
Critics. I think audience, it was something like 80%. So it's pretty close.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's not bad.
5.9 out of 10 on IMDb, which, like, everything on IMDb is low. I don't know if you've ever looked at it. It's like,
yes, I have.
And then a 74% positive rating from Google reviews. So that's just kind of like whatever. But so I have here, like, the synopsis that I got from IMDb. It's one sentence, and it's just a logger defends his family from a group of dangerous drug runners.
I mean, yeah. That's it.
Yeah. But we'll touch on the plot a little bit more intricately. So, like we said, it kind of starts with, like, these, like, vista shots, like, you know, beautiful, you know, British Columbia, Canada, and you know, what have you. And the first kind of scene with people is it's Jason Momoa, and the movie's called Braven because his character's name is Joe Braven. Which, you know, like, I guess that's a name.
It is. It sure is a name.
And he's like he like runs a logging company, I guess.
It's something like that.
Something like that. And he's like, you know, they're like putting some logs down and they're loading up a truck, and he tells his employee, basically, like, who's doing, like, a run, he's telling him, like, you know, be careful, you know, like, don't be an idiot, you know, whatever. And the guy's like, haha, like, if I get stuck, I'll just log in your cabin. And he's like, haha, don't do that.
Don't do that. Also, he was reading a porn magazine.
Yes, he was.
That was hilarious.
Yeah.
He was like, I'm on break.
Yeah, he's like, I'm on break. Time to do some porn.
Yeah. That was...
Which... I think it's funny that he's reading a porn magazine when this movie was made in 2018. Like,
like, who's reading
porn?
From a magazine, nonetheless.
It's for the articles.
True.
Yeah.
The news.
Yeah, the news.
That's where he gets his news. Surprisingly liberal.
Have you ever looked at a porn magazine?
No.
Oh, me neither. Yeah.
Well, I have no idea what's in there. As like an adolescent, I flicked through, like, a Sports Illustrated, like, swimsuit edition. Yeah, that was
I don't think there's...
No.
It really compares. I'm like curious about, like...
Because they have to have, like, articles in there.
Yeah.
But, right? Like, it can't just all be...
Right. And I know, like, in Playboy, like, in the heyday, it was, like, you could find, like, literature reviews and, like... Sports...
things.
News and stuff. But, like, what do they have now, you know? It's just like... The top 10 best boobs, you know?
What's going on in the Middle East?
I like to imagine those are written by the same journalist.
Yeah. Anyway.
So we get that, and then it cuts to Joe Braven at home.
Yeah. His family's great.
Great family, yeah.
Just the best.
I mean, we'll touch on it, like I said, like, I think, because Jason Momoa, he kind of falls into that, like, he falls into this very weird category of actors where he's both like an A-list, like, action star, but I think he's also just like a good actor.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that he does really well that I don't know if it's been capitalized on enough, he's really good at like playing a dad.
Yeah.
Like, just,
oh, yeah.
like the scenes with his, because it's not his real life daughter, it's just an actress, but like the scenes with his daughter in the movie, I like really bought. Like there's a scene where he's like, like putting her to bed and he's like reading to her and stuff. And it's like not, I mean, and I want to say too, like the movie takes a while to kind of kick into gear. Like I want to say the first action sequence doesn't happen for like 20 minutes.
That
maybe.
Sounds about right.
Which in a lesser movie I think wouldn't work, but I think human scenes are really good. To me, it works, especially because like I said, like he's good at playing like a dad. Like he's putting his daughter to bed and he's like messing around with her and stuff. And I'm like, I believe
that makes sense.
That would be how he'd interact with his daughter. Like it just seems like a cool dad. I don't know.
Yeah, no, he's just like he has this aura around him where I'm like, that's a good person.
Yeah, he seems like a nice man.
Yeah,
I don't know.
just gentle.
Yeah.
He's also huge.
He's very large.
He's
yes.
a big guy.
Real life large. Because a lot of like action stars, like Tom Cruise is like really small in real life. And,
yeah.
But
He's
I think
a weirdo.
I think real life Jason Momoa is like 6'2".
Good lord.
Something like 6'4". No, I don't think he's 6'4", but he's big. I mean, he's a big guy.
Yeah.
But at his house, like with living with them is his dad. And I just want to point out for the people who want to tell me that this isn't a Christmas movie, there is a line where his dad is like in the cabin and he says, "Oh, I was looking for the Christmas lights." So
there you go.
It's Christmas time.
It's a Christmas movie.
So it's a Christmas movie.
There you go.
It counts. But we meet his dad, who he's played by Stephen Lang, who
he looked familiar.
He's the villain in Avatar. If you've seen Avatar.
The blue people.
Yes, blue people Avatar.
That's where okay.
Yeah.
That's where I knew him from. I was like, and I watched this at probably like 10:30.
Yeah.
So I was like kind of half asleep when I was watching it. I was like, I don't want to look anybody up right now. I'm tired. But I was like, I know that guy.
Yeah.
I know the villain from somewhere.
He's in a bunch of stuff. He's one of those. He's like that guy. I think he's in. I want to say he's in Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and he's in a bunch of stuff. He's usually playing like a ditzy goofy guy.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay. I'll have to look him up later.
But we meet the dad.
Yeah.
And played by Stephen Lang, and who also, if anyone is like me, he's in the first season and a half of Into the Badlands.
Oh,
which is that AMC show, which is really good.
Yeah,
and he plays the guy in the wheelchair who's like can also fight for something.
Yeah, somehow.
Yeah. Anyway, he's great.
Oh yeah, he was awesome.
He plays his dad, and his dad has like they don't ever specify what it is, but it's like some sort of memory loss, like dementia or
something like that.
Just old dude being old.
Yeah.
And so they established early on that like his dad is having this problem, and then later it culminates in he goes to a bar. Like he wanders away from their house and he goes to this bar.
I feel like that'd be me as an old person.
Yeah, just wandering around.
Yeah.
I can see you going to a bar.
Just being like, where am I?
Where am I? Are you my wife?
Yeah.
And he like tries to get this woman to go home with him, and they explain later that he thought it was his wife.
Yeah.
So it's like doddering old man kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And the bartender's like, "Oh, you can't be here," or whatever. Like you gotta go. And then we see that like Joe is like, "Where's my dad?" And he's like running around the house. And the bartender calls him, and he's like, "You gotta come pick up your dad." So he like goes to go get him, and there's like a little fight in the bar.
Yeah.
What'd you think of that fight?
That was pretty good. It felt real. It wasn't like, how do I like say this? Because like you can tell when like a fight was like choreographed. Yeah. This felt just more human.
Yeah.
Right. It looked like how humans would just fight, especially in like a bar setting in that close quarters.
Yeah, it's a lot of like shoving.
And grappling.
Grappling, yeah.
I laughed out loud when this happened because Joe like enters the bar, sees his dad getting like beat up, and he just like runs and just like football like elbow checks a dude, and the dude goes flying,
which you would,
exactly. And I was like, I like how Jason Momoa's character is just all about blunt force trauma.
Yeah, but what I like about that first fight is it establishes that like he's not Yip Man. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
He doesn't have any kind of martial arts skill.
He's just a guy.
He's just a big guy who, like, knows how to throw a punch. And there's a little bit of, like, he picks up, like, a dart and he, like, stabs someone with it. You know, and it's like, but it's like a bar fight.
Right, exactly.
It's not like he's, like, doing kicks and, you know.
Kung Fu and whatnot.
Yeah, but the end of that fight is his dad gets hit with, like, a glass.
Oh, yeah.
And then he has to go to the hospital. So while that all is happening, and that's kind of like the impetus for what happens later in the movie. And also him getting hit with the glass is kind of foreshadowing because he gets hit in the head later. In a much more brutal way.
Yes, that was unfortunate.
We change gears and then we go back to Joe's employee who we find out that he has a side hustle. As a drug runner. As a mule, basically.
Pretty much.
And his like contact is this indigenous guy who people will probably recognize. His name is Zahn McClarnon. He's in Dark Winds, it's a show on AMC. He's a villain in a bunch of stuff. He shows up a bunch. He's like he's another one of those, hey, it's that guy.
It's like, I'll have to look him
great.
up too. He was wonderful.
If you watch Dark Winds, he's really good in that. But he's good. He plays kind of like the like gangster, you know, like very cocky, like, you know, very annoying.
He kind of was a kiss ass too, which I thought was hilarious because the main villain was like, I don't care about you.
We also meet the main villain. His first scene is he's like meeting this contact in a diner.
This was rough.
It's rough, but what I like about I think his name is I can't remember his name. The villain's name is Casson.
Oh yes.
But I think his name is Garrett Dillahunt. I think that's the actor's name.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, what I loved about his performance is he's a jerk and he's clearly like a psychopath. Because he just like nothing really bothers him. Like he's like talking to this guy and the guy's like, I'm sorry, like I'll find whatever, and he's like, I don't care. Like, you know, and then it like cuts to outside and he's like beating him to death with
a napkin holder. And everybody in the diner's just like looking at him. And then he just like looks at everybody and like puts his fingers up to his lips like he's shushing them. And like nobody's fucking with him.
Right. I thought he was a good villain. Like,
he was great.
He's believable as like this like vague drug kingpin kind of guy.
It's what I imagine like that type of person to be. And so he was great.
And he makes I think there's moments where it almost feels like he's phoning it in. But I feel like that's the character, not him necessarily. Like the main guy, like when the action really kicks off, like he's very cold. Like he's very like, you go here, you go here. We're gonna kill that guy. We're gonna get our shit and we're gonna leave. Right. And I feel like that is like just the way that guy is. You know?
No nonsense. Right. Because he's got other shit to do and he can't. Because I feel like this happens a lot in these type of movies where like the villain or like the drug runner dude like takes too long to like come up with this fancy plan, or they do these long monologues. This dude was like, all right, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna kill all these people. I don't care that there's a kid involved. Just kill them all. I don't care. I want my drugs. And we're gonna get out of here.
And what I liked is that by the end, like he's just like fed up. And he's just like, I don't know why you guys just won't give me my drugs. Like,
right, exactly.
So the Joe's employee, who's, I wish I could remember the character's name, but he's like smuggling drugs in like the logs. So like they have one that's cut open and there's like the drugs are stuffed inside. And on his like way to like deliver them, his truck like flips and explodes basically.
Yeah.
And they have to like smuggle the drugs out of there. So, I mean, just because the plot demands it, he stashes them at the cabin, at Joe's cabin. So we know that they're going to end up back there at some point. And we cut back to Joe, who he's like struggling with like this idea that his dad is like aging. And he's like having this conversation with his wife about like he doesn't know what to do, like, you know, he doesn't want to put her in a home, or not her in a home. Nice. He doesn't want to put her in a home. He doesn't want to put his dad in a home.
Nobody's going to a home.
No one goes to a home, which I felt like I had like two trains of thought about it. On the one hand, I'm like, that's kind of typical of like this kind of action movie where it's like there's like this like hyper masculine idea that like I don't need no help. You know, like I'm gonna just be by myself till I die. You know?
Yeah.
But what I liked is that there is the conversation of like with his wife, like it's not that his dad is like not manly or whatever. It's just like they can't spend all their time looking after him, you know, like, and I don't know. I kind of like, I felt like it walked a line between being like a little insensitive, but also being like,
it felt like a real conversation.
Right. Yeah.
And so especially cause they were talking to the doctor, and the doctor was like, yeah, you know, do you guys take care of him? And the wife was like, yeah, well, you know, I try to make my schedule around when Joe gets, you know, is at work. And so that way at least somebody is home, but it's really hard, which that's just like a real life thing.
Right.
You know? And so that felt very human. And then I think Joe, cause that's just a hard conversation to have in general to, you know, be like, hey, you know, you're getting old and you're my father or parent or whatever. And so we got to figure out like how to keep you alive for as long as possible. Yeah. And that's a tough conversation.
Yeah. And I also think like, I think on the one hand, like I could see how someone would feel that the plot demanding that they go to the cabin feels contrived. But what I like is that I do believe the idea that you would go, because people do it all the time, right? Where they're like, oh, I have to have this tough conversation. I'm going to do it in a place where it's more comfortable.
Yep.
You know, like trying to like put it off so that you don't have to do it, you know, right away.
Yep.
I do like that that's what takes them to the cabin. You know, like I feel like that is more realistic than something like you would get in a lesser movie where they'd be like, oh, my motion sensor went off, or like, you know, something like that where it's like, oh, I got to go to the cabin or whatever.
Yeah.
So I do like that the device for getting them there is that they have to like go to have this conversation. And then when they do have the conversation, I think that too also plays out really realistically where, you know, Joe is trying to be like, you know, I'm not saying you're whatever, like, or, you know, I don't want to just put you away, but, you know, I love you and I want to take care of you or whatever. And the dad, who's very obviously like insecure and, you know, upset about, you know, getting older and, you know, whatever, he explodes and he's whatever. And he has this line, which, you know, it's like, it's typical action movie writing where he's like, I fell out of a plane with a parachute. You do that and tell me that you won't have some issues or whatever. And I'm like, oh, they're establishing that he knows how to shoot a gun.
Yeah, exactly. It's foreshadowing.
Yeah. Which is fine. Yeah. I think in a movie that is so short, like you said, like, you know, it's very lean. Like, basically from 20 minutes in onward is just action. Like,
and from that point, I was stressed out the whole time.
Oh, yeah. It's very stressful.
I was, like, my heart was pounding. And I was like, ugh, right? Yeah. And so that's why I think I like this movie so much, is because I was like, man, this made me feel something.
Yeah, and I think, like, I have so many thoughts about, like, action movies, because they're, like, what I watch all the time. Yeah. It's just whatever. But, I mean, obviously I made a whole podcast. But one of the things that I think, like, if you're out there and you are wanting to make, like, an action movie that is low budget or whatever, the lesson you should take from this movie is that it never goes too big.
Right.
Right? Like, at any given point, it's like two people engaged in some sort of fight, and that's it. Like, it's never like, oh, they call in reinforcements, and all of a sudden it's a shootout, and all. It's like, it's 2 guys versus 6, or whatever, you know, and it's like, they know their limitations, and they do a good job of building out suspense, and building out, like, little moments of levity where you can, like, breathe a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's never... You know, and like the length-wise, like, you don't need more than an hour and a half in this kind of movie. You know, like, if they built out another half hour of like whatever, it would drag. But because it's just like boom, 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 boom. Yeah. There's never a moment where you're like, oh, when's this going to be over with? Yeah. It's like as soon as it hooks you, it's going, and then all of a sudden it's over. You know. Yep. I don't know what that is.
What the hell? I don't know if y'all can hear that, but there's a weird ass clicking going on. Yeah. Well,
I don't know what that is.
It's the TV, I think.
Okay.
All right.
It stopped.
We fixed it.
All right.
That was weird.
Okay. Anyway. Ghosts. Anyway. Okay. Anyway. Yeah. So, long story short, we get to the cabin.
Yeah. It's a beautiful cabin.
Beautiful cabin. Joe and his dad like have their conversation or whatever, and then I don't remember. It's Joe who finds the drugs.
Yes. Well, they kind of discover something's wrong at kind of the same time.
Right. Yes.
Because Joe discovers the drugs, and the dad, he's like outside because they just like finished their big fight, and he's like getting air or whatever. And he's like standing outside, and he like looks over at the door because the driver, Joe's employee, had like busted the lock on like shed part of the cabin, and then just tossed the drugs in there, and didn't think to like maybe hide it better. But he like looks over and realizes that the lock is missing.
Right.
And so he like walks over, opens the door like right as Joe's looking in at all these drugs, and the dad's like, lock's busted. Yeah. And then he's like, well, what the hell is that? And he's like, cocaine? And it's bricks. Yeah. Bricks on bricks of coke. Yeah. Which was gnarly.
I never know in these kinds of movies. I mean, it's obviously they never say what kind of drugs it is for obvious reasons. Yeah. But I'm always like, is that coke or is that heroin or like what's it? It doesn't matter.
They just called it dope.
It's just dope. Yeah. Yeah. And so they are like, oh shit, like we got to get rid of this or whatever. Mm-hmm. Then there's the revelation that Joe's daughter has snuck into the back of Joe's truck and is with them, which, like I said, like it's another way of like building out stakes.
Yeah, because because like when that happened, when the kid showed up, I was like, ah, shit. Yep. Damn it. Yeah. Oh god, and I got real nervous. Yeah.
And I will say, like, they do kind of toss her aside pretty quickly, which I think is a good idea because I do think it can get a little contrived sometimes in these kinds of movies where they, like, have to keep coming up with reasons why they wouldn't just kill the kid or, you know. Yeah.
But also, that's, like, a very real thing to do. Like, the first thought in Joe's head is, I got to get my kid out of here.
Out of here and to safety, yeah. And I think one of the things this movie does really well is it does a good job of like establishing space. Mm-hmm. So you kind of know like all throughout the movie like where someone is, who's going after them, and like kind of where everything is taking place, which is good because in a movie like this I feel like it could be very easy for you to kind of lose track of like, oh, where's Joe's daughter, where's Joe, you know, whatever. But they cut back and forth enough that you can kind of keep up with it and not really get confused. Yeah. I don't think there was ever a moment where I was like, wait, how did you, whatever. You know, I kind of always understood, like,
where everybody was.
She's on the mountain, he's over here, she's over, whatever. So, and then, so the drug dealers eventually kind of arrive at the cabin. there's one of the things that I think is interesting about this movie, like we talked about, like I think they do a good job of the villain is clearly like smart, like he knows, how to do, like maybe he has some kind of military training.
Yeah.
He knows how to lay people out, and I think they do a good job of like every one of his like informants is like kind of their own character.
Yes.
And he puts them all in different spots so that when the action unfolds, they all have like their little thing that they have to do.
Yeah.
And I think a choice that this movie made that's kind of bold is like a lot of times like in action movies they'll put like a mask on people or they'll have them wear a ski suit or something so that you can change stunt actors in and out.
Yeah.
But I think they made the choice to like you see each one of the villains' faces.
Yeah.
So what's interesting then about that is like they don't all get dispatched right away. Right? Like they all have their little action sequences where they don't die.
Yes.
And then eventually they get, killed off later.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I thought that was kind of a cool choice.
It was, yeah. I enjoyed it.
And this movie, so the director, Lynn Oding, he is a very, like, experienced stuntman.
Okay.
And he's an experienced, like, stunt coordinator. This is his only feature film, so it's the only movie he's ever directed, which I thought was weird because it felt to me like the kind of movie where he would get like bigger work off of this.
Yeah.
But I don't think this movie really made that big of a splash when it came out.
Yeah, I don't ever remember hearing anything about it.
Which is surprising. Like I even tried like, because normally when we do these episodes, I try to like do a bunch of research and like whatever. And I remember like I was like searching for like press interviews or like, and I couldn't find anything. So I think it just like dropped and then was forgotten about.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think having like a stunt coordinator as your director means that they have a better understanding of like how to shoot the action and how to like choreograph it and like do all these things in a certain way that it feels more real, I guess.
Yes.
Well, and I don't want to say realistic because there's definitely like some silly stuff.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I never like, there's no point where I was like, oh, that's dumb.
Yeah.
There's moments where I was like, oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know, especially because the big action kind of kicks off with a flaming arrow.
Oh yeah. That was dope.
Yeah.
I didn't know what the hell he was doing. Like he put the arrows in there and I was like, is he just heating up the tips?
Yeah.
Or is he trying to make flaming arrows? If so, why in a log cabin?
Yeah.
That seems like a bad idea. But hey, it worked out and that that poor guy.
Yeah. So he has like the decoy bag that he like throws out front.
There's so many decoy bags.
Yeah, that was kind of the dumb thing. Like, I guess I get it. But
yeah, no, I get it too.
There's like 3 different moments where he's like, "Here's your drugs," and it's like not really.
Yeah.
But so he like throws out the decoy bag, and then the guy like goes to like get it.
Yeah.
And he's like, he looks inside and it's filled with stuffed animals, and then he like looks through the peephole, and Joe shoots him with an arrow through the face. Yeah. Which I'm like, well, that's one way to kick off a fight.
Yeah.
And then there's a great sequence where he like goes on a snow. So they also establish early on that like there's no roads in and out. There's only the one road, and then there's ATV trails.
Yeah.
So as soon as they said that line, I was like, oh, we're gonna get some like ATV action.
Shit. Oh yeah.
I
was excited for that too.
And he like drives out like with his daughter like on an ATV. Which I was like, that's bold, because it would be pretty easy for them to just shoot you guys. But whatever. I guess they're bad shots. Well, I mean, to be fair, too, they had the cover of Joe's dad is up at the top story with a sniper rifle.
Yeah.
And he immediately like takes out one of the snipers.
Yeah.
Doesn't kill him. He just like,
wounds him, wings him, or whatever.
And then I think he like does a good job of like firing randomly to kind of get people to take cover.
Yeah.
Which was good. I thought that was a good way to do it. Mm-hmm. And then, so Joe like gets his daughter to safety, and then he's being chased, and there's a good moment where like the villain is like, wait, stop the car, like so I can hear like whatever. Mm-hmm. And he's all, they do that thing that I love in action movies where they're like, wait, they're not trying to leave, they're going back.
Yep. I was like, hell yeah.
And there's a really good like hand-to-hand fight with one of the drug dealers and Joe.
Yeah.
Like near an ATV.
Oh yeah.
What I thought was like weird about this movie, and I don't know if it was just the writer has like a terrible, like cruel sense of humor, but like all the villains die in really horrifying ways.
Oh yeah, it was brutal.
It was really brutal. Like, and I'm like, is Joe sadistic? Like the way he kills these people is like really kind of like mean.
Yeah, but it was effective.
It was effective,
and it was it was creative.
Yeah,
because like he was fighting, and it looked like he was losing.
Right,
and then he like wraps him with a cord, and I was like, what is going on? Right? And then he attaches the cord to the ATV, and I was like, oh, and he hops on the ATV. I was like, oh, he's just gonna like drag this dude around for a little bit and kill him. No. ATV goes off the damn cliff.
Yeah.
And we see the body hit a rock.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It's very it's pretty brutal. It's not particularly gory, but it's like you really feel the snap of that dude hitting a rock.
Yeah, and the body didn't like bounce. Yeah. It just hit and stopped. Ugh. All momentum. Yeah. I shivered.
Yeah, the noise it makes is pretty gruesome.
I was like, ugh.
I know. What was more horrifying to me is that Joe like jumps in the water.
Yeah, he ended up in the water. Yeah,
and it's like freezing cold.
That's what my first thought. I was like, okay, so first of all, he's now in like wet, cold clothes in the middle of winter. Mm-hmm. What is going? He's gonna get hypothermia. Yeah, like that's it for Joe. Adios, main character.
I know. Yeah,
and then he just strips the guy that died on the rock.
Yeah,
so.
And there's a bit. What I thought was kind of cool is there's like a gratuitous like shirtless scene. Which is like, hey, a lesser movie that would have been a woman, but you know,
we'll take Jason Momoa.
Yeah, we'll take him. You know, I think he looks good.
He was great.
He's very fit. What I've always, this is such a random aside, but what I like about Jason Momoa, like as opposed to a lot of other action stars, there's a lot of stuff that I like about him. Like one is that I just think it's cool to have an indigenous guy who is really famous. I'm just putting that out there.
It's dope.
One of the things that I think is also really cool is that he's fit. He's obviously very fit. Yeah. But he's not like six pack fit. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like he looks like a guy who just works out.
Yeah, he just goes to the gym. Well,
but he doesn't look like he's got a little bit of a dad bod. Like you know. Yep. And people love him. Like he's you know, obviously a huge action star, but I've never looked at Jason Momoa and been like, I couldn't do that. You know? Right? Yeah. He looks like a guy who he's just fit. Yeah. He's just healthy.
It's like they went to the gym and were scanning around and went, that guy, I like that guy. Yeah. And he was like, huh, me? All right, sure. Yeah. Speaking of brutal, I want to go back real quick to when they were still at the cabin, because Joe walks out to try and talk to the like head honcho. Yeah. And they're like talking and arguing and the driver is like trying to like interject and like calm tensions. Yeah. And the main
dog's dreaming again.
Right on. And the main villain just like gets fed up with him. Yeah. And he just pulls out a gun, shoots him in the head. Oh yeah. And I was like, what the fuck? Yeah. Not like a shut up and like threatening him with the gun. He just shot him. Yeah. And that was like, I think the biggest moment where I was like, man, this dude's not fucking around. No. Like if he sees that kid, she's dead. Yeah. On sight. Yeah. Dead.
I think there are a few moments where like I'm like, like he could have shot him there, or like, you know, little things like that. But I think you're right. Like they do a good job of making you like fear the main villain, like that he is really brutal and cold and like doesn't really care about, you know, anybody. Like you never see him. There's never a moment where he's like, "Oh, my buddy Brendan died." You know? He's just like, "I don't care." Like,
whatever.
As long as I get my drugs, you know.
Yeah, and get paid.
Yeah. So
anyway,
I also thought that moment, I mean, it was great, but I thought it was weird because there is a lot of blood later. But for some reason, when he shoots that guy in the head, there's no blood.
There's nothing.
There's nothing. And I'm like, oh.
Well, all right. Well, I suppose.
Oh, well.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. Drives off a cliff.
He drives off a cliff, and that dude snaps like a walnut.
Yeah. It was visceral.
And
because he climbs the mountain.
He does climb the mountain.
Or he climbs back up, and then the guy the main villain, he like tells everybody to go back to the cabin or like cut off. He's like,
yes.
oh, he's going this way, cut him off. And he goes, for whatever dumb reason, he goes down and then sees him going up.
Yeah.
And so then he has to like follow.
Right.
This was weird. The Joe he like slashes a tire or something.
Yeah, he slashes the dude's tires.
And then we never see them like deal with that. They never go and like try and start the car and be like, oh shit, or thing. It just like it happens and then cut next scene.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I mean, they don't really come back to that, which I think is probably a budget thing. Like they probably didn't have the time to go back and shoot it. Yeah. What it does do though, I mean, it does make it so that later when there's a lot of foot chases and stuff, you're not like, why are they driving around?
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
But yeah, so we do go back to the cabin, and we get a couple of little like scenes with the dad, who kind of just got left there.
Yeah.
Which like you get the sense that he can kind of fend for himself, and like you're not that worried about him. But there's a great action scene where Zahn McClarnon is like, fuck it, I'm just going to go get the drugs, right? Yeah. Like, he's just going to run in there with a gun and get it.
Yeah.
And he manages to get inside the house, and he's, like, shooting up to, like, where Stephen Lang is, and he's, like, shooting down at him, and then they both end up on the same floor, and he kills Zahn McClarnon in, like, the most brutal, like...
Yeah.
He's got, like... Is it a piece of glass, I think?
Oh.
Or is it, like, a knife?
I think it was a knife or something. Yeah.
And he's like doing that thing where he's like trying to stop him from like.
Oh yeah, it was a skewer.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, it was. He had a couple of skewers and he lost one, but then he just like, and it was slow.
Yeah.
And just up underneath oh god.
Yeah, it's pretty upsetting.
Yeah, it was unfortunate.
That's one of those where you're going, oh no.
Yeah.
And I like that they gave him like his little action scene because. Not much later. So we'll come back to it. But during this time, and a lot of this stuff kind of happens like concurrently, so I'm having a little trouble like remembering when it all happens. But we also get this sequence with the mom.
Yes.
Who she gets a call from the daughter who's like, there's men at the cabin and they're shooting or whatever. Mm-hmm. The mom calls like the sheriff who... There's this great scene with the sheriff and his deputy where the sheriff's like, we're going to go check out the Braven cabin. And the deputy's like, no, it's probably just some kids.
Yeah. When it's like actual drug dealers in the cartel.
Which I love, like, anytime in a movie there's like a disgruntled like employee who just doesn't want to do their job.
Yeah.
But we get the scene where the mom has to like rescue her daughter.
Yeah.
And she's got a bow and arrow with her.
It was great.
And
it was so good.
It's really good. And I appreciate that they gave the mom, like, her time.
Mm-hmm.
And they foreshadow it pretty heavily because, like, you see the mom carrying a bow. Mm-hmm. And then there's a scene where the mom's like, I'm going hunting, and she's got the bow. Yep. And they just keep showing it, and you're like, she's got to use that at
somehow. Yeah. It was wonderful.
Yeah, and she gets a really good sequence where she... And I think, like, there's... Nerds on the internet will always have that argument that's like, a woman couldn't fight a grown man or whatever, you know.
Which that's just not true.
It's just not true. But regardless, if you are one of those nerds, I think they do a good job in this movie where, like, you believe that in that fight she could overpower that guy. Yeah. Because she has a weapon and he doesn't. And you know, and they do a good job of disarming him and, like, you know, she is, like... scrapping. Like, you know, she's not like, oh, I gotta whatever. She's like stabbing him.
And she's not like trying to like load the bow and use the bow to shoot him. She's using it like a bat. Yeah. She's just beating the shit out of him with the fucking bow. And then she loses it and pulls out a knife and just like stabs the crap out of this guy.
Yeah. Which you would do.
Yeah, exactly. Like that like I think one of like the very first things they ever teach you in like a self-defense class is like, if you have a knife and somebody's trying to kill you, just stab them. It doesn't matter where you stab them. As long as you are hurting them and they are bleeding, they're going to slow down. And that's the point. Yeah. Is to slow them down. And she did that perfectly,
Yep.
stabbed the crap out of him, grabbed her bow, and ran.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, perfect.
Self-defense 101.
It's funny you brought that up because I was watching this video last night, and there's this guy I watch on YouTube occasionally, and he's like a former like Shaolin monk, and he does like he just like reacts to stuff mostly, but he was doing this like knife defense like reaction. And he pointed this out that I feel like if you're one of those people who like watches those like shitty like self-defense things on TikTok,
Yeah.
listen to my words. If someone has a knife, you should run.
Yes.
Don't stay and fight.
Yeah, don't engage.
No.
That's dumb.
That's really dumb. Like,
Yeah.
in any of these scenarios, like, as someone who loves, like, martial arts movies and action movies, I am never, ever in my life thought, I could take a guy.
Yeah.
If somebody was coming at me, I'm just gonna run. Like, there's no shame in that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I've seen, I don't know if it's the same guy, but I've seen somebody similar on TikTok who says the same things. Yeah. They're like, if they have a better weapon than you, run away.
Run. Yeah.
Even if like you're trained, the chances of your training actually working kind of low. Yeah. Right? Because people are unpredictable. Yeah. When you're like actively training in a martial arts, everything is like you're taking your time, you know what's coming, all this stuff. In the real world, people are unpredictable. You don't know what they're going to do, right? And so, yeah, if they have a knife, just run.
Just run.
Like, it's not worth it.
No. And like, yeah, anyway, you brought that up, but it made me think of that. Yeah. But yeah, so we get the action sequence with her mom.
Nice.
Grandma's getting in there. Yeah. So we cut back to the cabin, and so Joe has like made it back, and you see like some of the like drug dealers are kind of like starting to close in on the cabin, and there's a sequence where Stephen Lang is like still trying to like man the window, and he gets like shot. Yeah. And he doesn't get shot in the face. But he gets shot and it like grazes his head. Yeah. And he's just like gushing blood. Yeah. And there's a great moment where he's like rolling around on the floor and he's like screaming. And Joe like manages to get back into the cabin and he's like holding him and he's telling him like, it's me, it's your son, you know, like whatever. And one of the things I kind of like about this movie that sounds counterintuitive is, this sounds really brutal. I like that the dad doesn't get a hero moment. Yeah. He gets shot and then stabbed and then he dies. Yeah. And it's that's it. And that's it. And I think what I like about that is I feel like too often movies like this will lean on like he died a hero and he didn't have to go to the like nursing home or whatever. Like no, like they show in this movie that like he dies like pitifully. Like you know, he gets killed and like that's it. That's it. And I don't know. I like that.
Yeah. Oh no, it was great. It was this whole movie was very human. Yeah. Because sure, lots of action, lots of drama. But that was probably what would have happened in real life. Right. I mean, like because he like Joe grabs his dad and then he takes him down into where they found the drugs initially, into like the little shed. Yeah. He's like, you just stay here and stay quiet and we'll be fine. I'm gonna go deal with this. Right. So then Joe leaves and the main villain like gets to the cabin and he's like hunting around and he gets into that shed and sees the dad. Yeah. And so he's like, idea. Grabs the dad and is like, you know, yelling for Joe, and he's like, I got your dad, I'm gonna shoot him in the head if you don't give me the drugs. Spoiler alert, he would have killed him anyway. Yeah. Like Joe comes out of the house and he's like, okay, I'm sorry, I'll give you the drugs. And the villain's like, oh, now you'll give me the drugs? Now you'll give me the drugs? Yeah. And he's like, you did this, and then stabs the dad. Yeah. And then Joe is like screaming, no. And this, I thought, was the most, like, sadistic thing, is that the villain was screaming, yes, and I was like, what the fuck? This dude is crazy. Yeah. And, yeah, it was, oh, God.
It's great.
It's unfortunate.
It's unfortunate. And I think, I mean, we kind of skipped over it. We'll go back to it. But there's a great sequence right before that where all the, all his, like, cronies are, like, closing in on the cabin. Yeah. Oh, you see Joe is like, it becomes like Home Alone, where he's
I thought the exact same thing. I was like, this is Home Alone but higher stakes.
Where he's like planting things to like whatever, and you see him like just throwing shit in the fire. And there's a great moment where he like gets these like tongs and he like puts them in the fire. And then he sees this guy is like creeping under the window, and he grabs him with like the flaming hot tongs.
Yeah,
and that's another red hot. Where I was like, oh no!
And he like pulled him. He was like pulling him through the window. But then just like stopped.
Yeah, I think he got shot at, but
something like that. I just hit the mic. I hope that didn't register. Anyway,
it's fine. And he also like he hits another dude with a flaming axe. There's a lot of axes to the head. He like gets the axe, throws it, and then he like has this bottle of what I'm assuming is moonshine. Because he pulled it from the basement. And this I thought was hilarious. Like as they're coming up, and Joe is like trying to get ready, he like takes the moonshine, pulls off the lid, and just drinks a shit ton of it, and then like spits it into the fire. And then he throws the flaming axe, and then throws the moonshine on the guy, and then bursts into flames. Oh yeah.
And I was like, oh no.
I mean, fair enough.
And it worked. And then he takes the axe, he goes upstairs, breaks it, and then the last guy's like looking around on the bottom floor, and Joe's like up there waiting for his moment, and then he just throws the axe into the guy's face. It was awesome.
It was great. And so eventually, like, everybody kind of converges on the cabin. Like, the dad gets stabbed. The cops show up, finally. And they're, like, shooting back at the villain. He, like, shoots back at them. One of the cops, I think it's the sheriff, he gets shot in the neck, which is like, whoa. I think he lives.
I'm pretty sure.
Later, you see him, like holding it. And then he, like, takes off into the woods. And Joe is, like, running after him. There's a little bit more of, like, Joe's wife, like, grappling with one of the villains, like, trying to get their daughter free.
Because her and Joe, there's, like, one guy left. I think he's the sniper or some shit. I don't know. But they have this great, like, back and forth, like, tag team of this guy. And eventually the mom just, like, nails him with an arrow in the throat.
Yes, I was going to say, that guy gets it really bad. Joe shouts, and he, like, throws the axe and hits the guy in the back. He turns around, and then his wife shoots him in the throat. Like, oh, he was already dead.
That was overkill, but...
it's okay.
Yeah, it's fine. He was a dick anyway.
He was a dick. And then... so the Casson, like, takes off into the forest. And Joe is, like, chasing after him. And you see him kind of come up with a plan. Like, he's like, oh, I got, like, a plan to get this guy. And he gets, like, a bear trap. And something else. I think it's, like, a stake and some wire.
Like, a rope and something.
And he's, like, chasing after him. And then he gets the villain to follow him. To this edge of this cliff. And... you see Joe, like, setting it up, and he, like, you know, sets up a stake, and he wraps the wire around it, and then he attaches it to a bear trap. And when I first watched it, I thought, oh, he's going to, like...
use the bear trap,
right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you see, you know, them get into, like, a fight, and one of the... I think Casson, the villain, he has those, like, curved knives.
Kunai?
No. I can't remember what they're called.
I also cannot
remember.
remember.
There's a name for them, but they're like those, you hold them with, like, your pinky. And they're, like, you know, curved.
They're dope as hell.
Yeah, they're really cool looking. But they have, like, a little knife fight, and Joe gets stabbed a bunch, and you think, like, he's going to get murdered because the villain is, like, figures out, like, oh, you wanted me to step on this bear trap or whatever. And Joe is like, no! And he just, like, charges him. Gets his own foot in the bear trap and then tackles Casson off a cliff. Drops him, and then he's just hanging there by the bear trap. And I'm like, you put a lot of faith in that bear trap.
I, honest to God, I was like, it's just going to rip his foot off. Because I saw him running, and I was like, what the hell's going on? And then he stepped in the bear trap, and I was like, oh, well, like, your foot's gone. It should have been gone. But, no, he... I hung in there. I was like, that has got to be the most painful thing ever. Because he's hanging upside down.
Right. I feel like it would have ripped your leg off.
It shoulda.
I feel like it should have. I mean, I'm willing to buy it. It's fine. It's a movie.
It was kind of cool.
But that's basically the movie. Like, that's like the last.
That's it. Yeah, because then he like pulls himself up.
Yeah.
And he's like bleeding. He gets his foot out of the bear trap, and it's like mutilated.
Yeah.
And then family is reunited. And
right.
End scene.
Yeah, there's some wonky kind of CGI at the end. Like when he's hanging off the cliff, you can tell that like it's like not there. You know what I mean? But it's fine.
It's whatever.
For the budget and everything, like we said, it's a very pretty movie. I don't think there's a moment where I'm like, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I mean, that's basically the film. Like I said, like, I just think it's such a good, like, for me, this is like blueprint, like, low budget action. Like, it's just, it's lean, like, it's mean. It's
a fighting machine.
It's a fighting machine.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I had a great time. God, there were so many of those brutal moments. Mm-hmm. What was the one? I can't remember what it was. It was just, I laughed out loud. I think it was kind of towards the end. It was ridiculous. There was, I think it might have been when Joe was up a tree.
Oh, yeah.
And he drops out of the tree and then just like, did he kill that guy?
Yes, he did.
He did? Okay, that's right.
I forgot about the tree thing. I know, I was like, you see him and you're like, what's he doing? And he's all like scrambles up a tree Donkey Kong style.
Yeah, and I thought he was just going to hide.
Yeah,
But then he just jumps on the guy and...
There's even a great shot from like that guy's perspective where he looks up and he's...
I can't even remember how he killed that guy.
I think he just like axes him like he does everybody. But
again, it was one of those moments where it's like, you could pick up a gun.
Yeah, I know.
You could shoot him in the face.
No.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I buy it. I mean, that's Braven.
It was.
So, this is our Christmas episode.
It is.
We're calling this a Christmas movie.
I agree.
What would you say are the Christmas themes of Braven?
Family, obviously.
Yes. Snow. I established last week that snow is my...
yeah. I mean, technically, there's gift giving.
There is gift giving, yes. There's a fire.
There's a fire, yes.
Lots of fire.
Yeah.
There's another kind of white powder.
True. True.
Joe is kind of like Santa, like he just drops out of places. And,
yeah.
You know.
Yeah. No,
there is that he throws the package and it's got the stuffed animals in it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's like Santa.
Yep, it's a Santa.
It's a Christmas
movie. all the diversion, like all the bags that he had that were diversions, those were just all gifts.
Just gifts, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
This is a Christmas movie.
Yeah.
Confirmed.
Confirmed by us. We are undisputed.
Undisputed, yes.
So
there's a movie series called Undisputed, which we might watch at one point.
All right.
Because we'll talk about it later. But
all right.
This movie was made for $5 million, like we said. It's what I would call a low budget movie. So generally low budget's like 5 to 10 million, like
God,
something like that.
Much money.
I know. Even lower. I mean, micro budget, I think it's like, sub 1 million. That's considered micro budget.
Damn.
And then no budget is anything that's like under 10,000.
Nice.
Anyway, so we're going to touch on a lot of low-budget action movies because I think they range widely in terms of quality, but...
Yeah. This was up there.
This was kind of... Yeah, this is definitely, for me, like, one of the better ones. There's others that I love, but this one, for me, is, like... I think they make a good use of their budget. They don't... I think sometimes the problem with a low-budget movie is that they, like, try to be a big-budget movie, but hide it.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like this movie does that.
No.
It's one location mostly. It's a couple of actors. Like they never go too big.
Yeah. There's no like big group scenes.
No, and there's no like they don't really do too many special effects. Like there's some squibs and there's some like like I said that last moment where he's like hanging over the cliff.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much it.
That's it. Yeah.
Out of 10, what do you?
Out of 10. For me, it kind of ended abruptly. I wish we kind of had like a scene after all of that was done and we see kind of like the family recovering from all of that and maybe even like a funeral for the dad because he was an integral part of this whole movie, and he died horrifically. And so just kind of some closure for the dad. Also, I would like to see if that sheriff was okay, because I kind of liked him.
Yeah.
He was a cool guy.
He kind of looked like you if you were bald.
You know what? That's fair. That is fair. So I'm gonna say like 7.8 out of 10. It was good. Mm-hmm. It ended abruptly. There were some things where I was like, we could explain that, or go a little bit more in depth with that. Mm-hmm. But I mean, other than that, fight scenes were great. Jason Momoa, awesome.
Love
all
him.
The characters were spot on. So yeah, 7.8.
Okay, this may be the very first time, and maybe the only time, I 100% agree with you. I would also say 7.8.
All right.
It's lean. Yeah. Like I said, like it doesn't go too big. Mm-hmm. I think like it's infinitely watchable. Like you could put it on at a party, and it's the kind of movie you could recommend to like your dad, or like, and he wouldn't be lost and whatever. Like I think it's just a good movie. Yeah. And for me, that's like a 7.8. So
yeah. No, for sure.
That's what I got.
Hell yeah. That's what I got too.
There you go. So this is our shortest episode yet.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
what are we clocking?
We're clocking an hour. Hour 3, something like that.
All right. Yeah, fuck yeah. There's a shorter one for y'all.
That's okay.
Yeah,
it's Christmas. Fine. Go spend it with your family.
Yeah.
With your dumb family that you don't want to see.
Yeah.
Eat some Christmas cookies.
Yeah. Just eat food.
Eat food.
And party hard.
Party hardy.
Yeah. Blackout maybe. No,
don't do that.
No.
I'm not encouraging alcoholism on this show.
No.
Grayson is, but
not alcoholism. But if you like to enjoy a little drink here or there,
that's fine.
Make some mulled wine. Mulled wine is awesome.
Maybe.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what that is, but
it's just a type of rum.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Spiced rum is a type of rum. A good holiday drink, mulled wine.
There you go.
Mulled wine. It's just wine you put in a crock pot with a bunch of spices and I think apple cider. You let it cook for like 1,000,000 years and then it's awesome. So.
Well, I'm recommending eggnog.
I'm
just kidding. I like eggnog.
Hate eggnog.
Everyone does. Who likes eggnog?
My parents.
Okay.
Well, no, okay, not my mom. My dad and my sister both love eggnog.
Really?
Every year they just get like a half gallon and just drink it. And they get several of these every year. And I'm like, gross?
I don't like eggnog.
It's gross.
Yeah. But anyway.
There you go. Kind of a tangent, but whatever.
That's fine. Thanks for listening.
Yeah.
If you like this...
You got it.
I can't talk anymore. If you liked this episode, feel free to give us a rating and a review. 5 stars really helps out the show.
Yeah, it'd be great. Subscribe, if that's a thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Follow, subscribe.
There you go.
One of those things. If you have a suggestion for the show, or if you'd like to ask us a question, you can find us at vivalaaction@gmail.com.
Yep.
We are on Twitter at ActionViva, and we are Viva La Action everywhere else.
Yep.
You can find Grayson in the street, hanging around.
Yep. That's where I live.
And you can find me right behind you.
Yep.
Watch out.
And be careful.
But thanks for listening.
Yep.
And we'll see you guys next time.
Adios.
Bye.